Hello, and it's time for another update on the Harbor Town. We're doing 10-minute updates here. And I didn't think I was going to make an update for a while, but it turns out that a lot has happened in the last couple of days of creating. So to start with, as you recall, I'd sort of laid out these little like kind of road outlines and stuff. But wow, a bunch of stuff has happened. And this is the point in creating creations that I make where it gets a little crazy because I start to sort of really change my mind about the landscape and the layout. This happened when I was building the tower. It started as just a tower, and then it became so much more than that. So right now what's going on is a number of things. So you can see where this gap is here. Like things look pretty messed up right now, which is part of the process of, and for me at least in creating is, I start to put all these neat houses together. It looks great, but then there ends up being these periods where I end up making major changes, and it looks a little, it freaks me out a little bit in the beginning, but uh, I have cleared out this space because I've decided that I think I need to sort of expand the docks just a little bit here. I've decided that I want room for two large ships in addition to docks for all kinds of smaller ships and stuff. Um, and I don't know if I want to make another ship that is actually docked, but I just decided that I wanted the space for that. There were a couple other reasons too. It also had to do with some of the just the buildings that I was trying to fit in here and things. Um, so I've also like carved out a spot over here, partly because of some of the building we want to do. I'm considering, and already you can see I'm kind of building towards basically planning on having this extend in an L and come out this way and go out here for a little bit, I think. I'm not completely sure about that, but I was sure enough that I cut up some of the landscape here. And so this is kind of this work in progress that I'm not quite exactly sure, but I have kind of a fuzzy idea of maybe what I want to do over there, so that's starting to take some shape. Also, since the last time, I think I extended this stone area, flat area back here, and I do want to fill all this in all the way to the hill here for this kind of first level that's kind of housing around the docks area. Um, so I've also placed in the world a building that I actually forgot to put into my test world when I was showing all the buildings. So this is a little kind of order house that I made a long time ago, and I don't remember. I'm sure that I followed some sort of a guide. I know that I didn't just come up with it from scratch, but I just don't remember exactly where this came from. Um, but it works perfectly for a little like guardhouse kind of thing. I think it fits perfectly on this bluff. Although what you can see is that as I copied this into the world, because these are buildings that I've had saved. I've saved up a bunch of buildings so that one day when I found a space like this and had the ideas of how to build a town, I can drop them in. But then they don't just perfectly land on these little bluffs. So as you can see, I've had to start filling in the land to try to fill this out. And eventually I'll have to do, I will have to try to make this bluff come out far enough and blend in so that it looks like it's sitting right on top of the hill. So I've gotten sort of started on that, but right now this is just kind of a temporary. I know this is where I want it to be, and I'll have to come in and work this through, polish this up later. So similarly to that, other buildings in the world, you can see that there's some buildings up on this bluff that I've keep referring to as the rich people's area. And just the same, since these are buildings that I saved to later place into a world like this, all I've done now is just kind of drop them in loosely where I would like them to be. And I think that this one was in the previous video, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, obviously I'm going to have to work the landscape up to give not only enough foundation, but also some surrounding, some surrounding yard space and all that. So there's going to be some work to do. But this is loosely kind of dropped these kind of where I feel like I might want them to go. Similarly here, this is just, I'm going to need to, you know, iron that all out, but I was more concerned about kind of where it rested on this bluff here. And so in this way, I like where these sit. I tried to put a playhouse in here, didn't like it, had to get rid of it. Carved out a space where I think I will probably want to put at least one more house in here, kind of in this little gap. Although this area doesn't need to be nearly as crammed together as the sort of commercial or common people housing. But I do plan to have about 8 houses in this kind of bluff area here that are more sort of upscale. Um, then I've sort of completed this additional warehouse storage unit. So the entrance to this building is here, and you go in. I haven't put the door in yet, but you go in here, and upstairs there's some little apartments that are really the idea. My idea is that they're sort of places for cheap housing for dock workers. And then maybe like a foreman apartment, perhaps a little larger. Underneath here, though, are all these storage units. And so there's one here, 3 more here. Oh, I forgot. I gotta put a lantern in there. And then there's another very large one if we go inside. And I kind of tried to make this look like a very large gate, but then I actually still wanted a way to really get inside. So there's that gate. But yeah, so that's a pretty large warehouse. And then there's one more on the back side here. Um, and so I said earlier in my other video that I wanted to start adding some more storage and warehousey stuff to the docks area, and I still have a little bit more that I want to do over here, but this is one. So I played around with some different textures. So this being like in a kind of a industrial building, I guess. Played around with this worn plaster texture. Obviously, it's not as like pristine and pretty as this two-door stuff over here, but I actually kind of I like it, and I'm gonna play around with some of this texture, especially in the more common parts of town. And then I just played around with some stucco, I think, or maybe this is plaster. And I'm not totally sure how I feel about this, but I just thought it'd be nice to give some color, and it's just like a little bit of painting on the building. I don't know. One of the things about Minecraft is that you're trying to give some just distinction um, in tones, and so the colors don't always. I don't know. They don't always perfectly match, but in this world, anything that helps break up kind of really similar color palette, I think is helpful. But I'm just not totally sure if I like this or not. So give me your feedback too. You let me know what you think. But yeah, not sure about that color. Okay, so yeah, so a lot of this stuff over here is pretty torn up right now. Um, in my brain though, I have enough of an idea that of kind of what I want to do that it doesn't totally scare me, even though I'm not 100% sure. Um, this is going to have a little pathway that kind of comes up here, but because the actual stairwell is over here, I think we're going to have this come down and then stairways down the bluff down here into the main town is my thought. So yeah, so I think that that's it for the updates today. It's a lot of work in progress stuff, but because I just thought it would be neat to show this happens sometimes in these builds where for a while I felt like I had just been adding buildings and everything had just been clean and tidy, and now I've like torn a ton of stuff up and dumped a bunch of stuff up here that's just floating in the air. But all of this is to help me just kind of begin to get my mental image of sort of where I want this to go. Um, so yeah, I think that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed. Take care.